so I'm Davida Mueller. I'm the Director of Service Planning and Development with Sun Tran, and I also work with Sun Van and Sunlink.
And I'm Shamara Smith. I'm the transit planner here at Sun Tran.
And I'm Gabby. I'm the communication specialist for Sun Tran, Sun Van, and Sunlink.
So we want to talk about the policies that we're going to take to the community next week.
What kind of policies are coming up?
Okay, so
Well, there's three major policies that we're bringing to the community meetings. The first one is the major service change policy, and that essentially is when we change our service more by 25%. We consider that a major service change. And the other two are a disparate impact and disproportionate burden policies. So disparate impact is when we find out that a service that we're changing hits that major service change policy, we go deeper into our analysis and look at, are we disproportionately affecting minority communities? And then disproportionate burden, we do the same thing, but we look at income. So we kind of evaluate, are we disproportionately affecting people who have lower income?
Can we go a little bit more into each one? What is like the 25%? What was it you said?
25% is our.
Threshold or
so the 25% is specifically on revenue service miles or revenue service hours. And I realize that people think of revenue that we're getting money, and this doesn't matter whether we have fares or not. The revenue service time or the revenue service hours are when we go from the very first time point in the morning to the last time point at night. So that entire time that we have a bus operating on the street, that is considered revenue service. So the 25% that Shamara was mentioning is revenue service hours or revenue service miles. And I realize that revenue, we talk about it usually as money, but even though we're not taking in any money, it's still considered revenue service time from the very first time point in the morning when the bus goes out to, say, Pima College West, to the last time point of the night. So that's our revenue service time. And so the time that we're on the street are the hours that we're working. So if we hit 25% or more change in the hours, or the miles, the distance that we're traveling all day long, if we change 25% more of the miles. And so that's what's considered a major service change.
And when would you make changes like this?
Oh, so right now we're looking at implementing our comprehensive operation analysis, but sometimes it could be because we have a request to go to a new location. So how do we, and the route doesn't go to that new location. Extending the route to, say, Pima Animal Care, that would be an increase in miles and time. Or maybe we have something else happen, say a business that we were going to, or the airport. We're no longer going to the airport. I can't imagine ever not going to the airport, but we're no longer going to the airport and we need to shorten the route. Then that would be could be a major service change depending on how much we shorten the route. So it doesn't matter. It could also be frequency. So if we add more frequency to a route, say a route is once an hour on the weekend, if we make it every 30 minutes on the weekend, we have just changed the amount of time that we are operating on the service by 50%. Because if you go from an hour to 30 minutes, that could be considered a major service change for by hours and by miles, because every mile we travel and every hour that we operate. So that alone could be a major service change.
Thank you for that, Davida. Can you also tell me more about what is the other two policies you were talking about?
So the other two policies are disparate impact. So that is when we look further into our analysis, specifically our major service changes. And we just ensure that we're not disproportionately impacting minority groups. That's the disparate impact. And then the disproportionate burden is when we're looking at income base. So we're making sure we're not disproportionately impacting people who have low income.
What happens when you impact these communities?
So we attempt to mitigate the changes. We'll look at the changes that we're proposing, and we'll look at ways to kind of mitigate that. So we'd like to consider the riders as well as the operators. So we look at the distance between the bus stops. We look at the time you're waiting. Look at those kind of changes that we're making and make sure that we're not making a bad decision.
Yeah, bad decision. I'm not sure that we ever make bad decision is what would you call it?
A very loaded term.
That's a judgment. That's a judgment call whether or not any change we make is bad. Because I know just about every change we make, somebody says we've made a bad decision. But it's still important for us to be able to make changes to the system because how people use the system changes. How the roadways go. They don't change very often, but every now and then there's a change to the roadway. So we have to make changes on occasion. The disparate impact, the way I think of it is we are trying to make sure that we don't inadvertently discriminate, even though we're looking at it as a whole. And there's no discrimination in making the change. We have to make the change. But are we affecting Hispanic or Black community or Asian community more than we're affecting non-minority communities? And then it's a math problem. I know we talk about math like, we'll never use that math in real life. Well, actually, we do use that math in real life. It's an algebraic problem. So we look at, there's this many people that are non-minority that are affected by the change, and there are this many people that are minority that are affected by the change. And then we have to determine what the difference between the two. So say we have 60% that are minority individuals. Minority is any race or Hispanic. So it's Black, white, Asian, African, Black is African American, sorry. White, Black, African American, Asian, Hawaiian, Pacific Islander, or Native American. So are we affecting them more than we're affecting non-minorities? And so that's really important that we make sure that the system is as equitable as possible.
And how can the public here learn more about this?
Well, we're going to have some meetings for next 2 weeks. So March 24th through April 1st, we're going to have meetings. We want the community to come out and talk to us about these policies. We want to get their comments. We want their recommendations. Should we change it? Should we not change it? And then we provide those recommendations to the mayor and council. We're planning on going in May. We'll give them these recommendations. And then they say, yep, that's good. Or they say, oh, we think it should be this based on the community's comments. So these three policies are very much community-driven and approved by our mayor and council. So without that, we can't do it. And so this is a Federal Transit Administration requirement as part of our Title VI. And Title VI is part of Title VI is part of I totally messed it up. But Title VI is an element of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. So it's that piece. And then the Federal Transit Administration gives us guidelines on how we are to work transit, public transit. And one of those items is having a major service and fare change policy, disparate impact policy, and disproportionate burden policy. But they also require us to go to the public and make sure that the policies that we've set in place are appropriate for our community. So these policies are everywhere across the country, and in the territories, but what that policy is in the amount of distance, in the amount of hours, is determined locally by the community.
Great. And what can we, I guess, expect in these meetings? Will there be a presentation? Can we, like, what do we expect?
You should expect more of an open house type of situation. We'll have a presentation available upon request. We'll typically have the maps laid out, and we'll just talk about the changes and any concerns the public might have.
We're also going to ask people to give us their comments, how they feel about the policy specifically. Do they have a recommended change? And that's mostly it. I mean, we're going to have 10 different meetings, so hopefully a lot of people will come visit us. We have them at different times, different places. But taking down those comments and making sure that our leaders know how the community feels about them is really important. And then these policies become part of our work for the next 3 years. Because everything that we do, we have to go back and make sure we're following the policy.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
So-
thank you for joining me and answering my questions. For more information, visit suntran.com or call customer service.
Thanks.